You sit down in complete silence. No phone notifications, no background noise, no distractions. Everything is perfect. And yet, within seconds, your mind starts drifting. You think about something random, a conversation, a memory, a plan you didn't even know you had, and suddenly you're no longer focused. So here's the question. If nothing is distracting you, then why are you still getting distracted? Most people think distraction comes from the outside world. Noise, people, screens. But that's only half the story. Because some of the most powerful distractions don't come from outside at all. They come from inside your own brain. And understanding this completely changes how you think about focus. Your brain is not designed to stay focused forever. In fact, it constantly switches between two major systems. One is the goal-directed network, controlled largely by the prefrontal cortex, which helps you concentrate on tasks. The other is the default mode network, which becomes active when your mind is at rest. This system is responsible for mind wandering, internal thoughts, and spontaneous idea generation. And here's the key part. Even when you're trying to focus, the default mode network doesn't fully shut off. It's always running in the background, waiting for an opportunity to take over. This creates something called attention drift. Even in complete silence, your brain naturally shifts away from the task. Not because you lack discipline, but because your brain is wired to generate thoughts continuously. This process is known as stimulus-independent thought. In simple terms, your brain doesn't need external input to create distractions. It can generate them on its own. Now add working memory into the picture. Your brain can only hold a limited amount of information at once. This is called working memory capacity. When you try to focus on something complex, your brain fills this space with task-related information. But the moment that load becomes unstable or slightly overwhelming, other thoughts start leaking in. This creates cognitive interference, where unrelated thoughts compete for attention. And this competition is real. Inside your brain, different neural networks are constantly competing for control. This is sometimes referred to as neural competition. The task you're working on is trying to hold your attention, but your internal thoughts, memories, ideas, worries are also trying to take over, and often they win. Not because they're important, but because they're more interesting or emotionally charged. This is where dopamine comes in. Dopamine is part of your brain's reward system. It motivates you to pursue things that feel rewarding or novel. When a task becomes repetitive or boring, dopamine levels drop, and your brain starts looking for something more stimulating, even if that stimulation comes from your own thoughts. This is why boredom psychology plays such a big role in distraction. When a task lacks novelty, your brain creates its own entertainment. But this is where things get really interesting. Your brain actually prefers internal distractions over external ones in some cases, because internal thoughts are more personalized. They're connected to your goals, your fears, your memories, which makes them more engaging than the task in front of you. So even in a silent room, your brain can create a level of mental noise that's just as distracting as a loud environment. Now let's talk about attention residue. Every time you switch from one thought to another, a small part of your attention stays behind. If you were thinking about something earlier in the day, a conversation, a problem, a plan, that thought can linger in the background. Even when you're trying to focus, part of your brain is still processing it. This reduces your ability to fully engage with the current task. And then there's cognitive fatigue. Focusing requires energy. The prefrontal cortex, which controls attention and self-regulation, gets tired over time. When this happens, your ability to maintain focus decreases, and the default mode network becomes more active. This leads to more frequent mind wandering. So even if your environment is perfect, your brain might not be. This connects to something called the vigilance decrement. Over time, your ability to sustain attention naturally declines. Even highly trained individuals experience this. It's not a flaw, it's a built-in limitation of how attention works. The longer you try to focus without breaks, the more likely your mind is to wander. Now consider multitasking effects. Even if you're not actively multitasking, your brain might still be recovering from previous task switching. Each time you switch tasks, you create a task-switching cost. Your brain needs time to reorient. If you've been jumping between activities earlier, your attention system is already weakened, which makes internal distractions more likely. But the most surprising example might be your own internal dialogue, that voice in your head that talks, plans, replays conversations, imagines scenarios. It's not random. It's part of your brain's way of processing information and preparing for the future. but it can also become a major source of distraction, especially when it becomes repetitive or emotionally charged. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. Early humans needed to constantly scan for threats, plan ahead, and reflect on past experiences. A brain that wandered too little might miss important information. So evolution favored a mind that is constantly active. The problem is, in modern environments, this same system can interfere with tasks that require sustained focus. Fast fact, studies show that people spend nearly 47% of their waking time thinking about something other than what they're doing. Another one. Mind wandering is more likely when tasks are either too easy or too difficult. And surprisingly, a completely quiet environment can sometimes increase internal distraction because there's nothing external to anchor your attention. So what's actually happening when you get distracted with no noise? It's not a lack of discipline, it's a combination of systems. The default mode, network generating thoughts, the reward system seeking novelty, working memory reaching its limits, and attention systems experiencing fatigue. Your brain isn't failing, it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. The real challenge isn't eliminating distraction completely. That's impossible. The goal is learning how to manage where your attention goes. Because focus isn't about silence, it's about control. And once you understand that your biggest distractions come from within, you start approaching focus in a completely different way. If you found this helpful, share this video and subscribe to the channel for more insights into how your brain actually works. Because sometimes, the reason you can't focus isn't the world around you, it's the world inside your head.